Roberta Armstrong has had a good life.
My mom and dad together, this is a cute picture, which is, I think they were definitely in love.
But she still wonders from time to time how it would have been different had her father lived.
My name being Roberta is probably pretty obvious. That was my dad's name, Robert.
Lieutenant Robert Madsen of Minnesota died in a training crash 80 years ago on what's now known as Idaho National Laboratory. It was previously a training ground for World War II aviators. He was only 28 years old and was the navigator.
These are local newspaper clippings, probably from Minnesota, Pioneer Press, about the crash.
Roberta had never met her father and had grown up hearing stories about him from her mother.
After her husband died, her plan was to join the Army Corps. But she discovered she was pregnant, and that was me.
At the end of June, a commemoration event at INL was held to honor 7 crewmen, including Roberta's father, who died the night of January 8, 1944. She and her husband traveled from New Mexico.
I'm so happy to be here today.
She shared some background on her father and how her mother,
I like to think she's here in spirit,
had died 10 years ago.
Roberta even brought this scrapbook that's about 80 years old, full of memories of her father.
Inside, there were orders to come to Pocatello, condolence cards, a letter from the chaplain in Pocatello, and lots of family pictures. There was even a flight log.
There's 8 hours in it. 4 hours were in a trainer, and another 3 hours were in 2 different versions of a B-24. And then an hour and 5 minutes was in the B-24J, which crashed.
So how did her father die along with the rest of the crew? Their B-24J Liberator bomber, which is similar to this, crashed on a training run out of Pocatello. According to the Army's official report, the bomber left the Pocatello Army Air Base just after 8 p.m. Nicholas Holmer, an archaeologist at INL, said it was dark and the weather was clear that day in 1944.
There were a series of bombing and training ranges that were associated with that air base, and 2 of them are now on the INL. By 8:50 p.m., they were within range of the bombing range. The tower spotted them. They took 3 runs over the bombing range. They didn't actually drop any bombs. They were at 20,000 feet. And then after that 3rd run, they were making a circle around for a 4th. By 9:10, they had crashed. One of the tail rudders came off of the aircraft, and then it ended up just plummeting down. And it was so violent that it burned instantly. And none of the crewmen were able to escape.
While the cause of the crash was never determined, pilot error was not suspected. Mark McDonald is a Pocatello historian with Project Remembrance.
The site remained undisturbed and forgotten for 70 years.
In January 2014, he contacted archaeologists at INL and told them he thought there might be a World War II crash site at INL.
Record keeping wasn't good. We used photos from the accident report, which were really bad photocopies, and also old aerial photos that were taken in the 50s. And we kind of matched up photos with the terrain and picked 3 likely spots and came out here and checked them out. And on the 3rd try, we found it.
He said some of the large pieces of the wreckage were taken away in 1944, but there were still some pieces left behind, even a class ring, which ultimately connected to one of the crew members. Mark got a granite marker made and placed out on the site to honor the crew members.
We're here today to remember history, to preserve it, perhaps to learn from it.
As for Roberta, she had never been to the crash site until she came in June.
The site wasn't really an emotional experience for me. It was a little more informational and maybe academic, and trying to develop a better understanding.
She described what she saw.
This site is pristine. All the pieces, all the little pieces, and you can imagine the force of the explosion when the plane went down. There isn't a piece that I saw that was bigger than that. It's all there, and the blue glass is still blue and the orange glass is still orange.
She believes her mother would have had a different reaction to seeing it.
I think they were very deeply in love, and she missed him
Learning about her dad through history, scrapbooks, the crash site, and her mother's stories, Roberta said she admires him.
Came across as a guy who was going to college, and he decided that he needed to serve.
Seeing this has given her some closure because she now understands more of how the crash happened and how her father died.
I still would have liked to have known him.
Andrea Olson, EastIdahoNews.com.